You know those pictures you always see of Kashmir? There's incredible green meadows right up in the Himalayas.
Oh, yeah, stunning.
Think about Baisaran near Pahalgam. People call it mini Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
You imagine like crisp mountain air, these views that just stretch forever.
Absolutely breathtaking.
Now just try to picture that complete serenity just shattered. Because on April 22nd, just recently, 2025, that beautiful spot became, well, a scene of absolute horror.
Truly, truly devastating attack. We're talking 25 tourists plus one local resident who lost their lives.
Just awful.
Yeah, it's just such a brutal intrusion, isn't it? Violence crashing into a place known for being, well, peaceful, beautiful.
And it's more than just the immediate horror, though that's terrible enough. This one event, it's sent these massive shockwaves, right through the whole region. And it's hit the tourism sector incredibly hard. I mean, tourism is basically the lifeblood of Kashmir.
It really is.
So today, that's what we're diving into. What this attack really means. The immediate fallout, sure, but also how's the government reacting? What's the economic pain look like? And, the bigger picture stuff for the valley. We want to kind of unpack it all, but without getting totally bogged down.
Well, the scale of the official response is pretty striking already. Just a week after the attack, so that's April 29th, this major directive came down.
Right.
The closure of 48, count them, 48 out of the 87 main tourist destinations right across Jammu and Kashmir.
Wait, 48 out of 87?
Yep.
Wow. Let that sink in. That's more than half.
More than half.
More than half the places people travel halfway around the world to see in Kashmir. Suddenly, just off limits. We're talking like iconic spots, right? Places like Yousmarg, Doodpathri.
Exactly. Even Batamori, famous for the almond blossoms in spring, shuttered.
So why? I mean, why such a huge, drastic step?
Well, the main reason, and it's understandable, is security. Plain and simple. These places, they're often a bit more remote, maybe seen as more vulnerable. So they're basically reassessing the potential threats there. It really shows you the tightrope the authorities are walking, doesn't it? They need to keep people safe, visitors and residents, but they also have to try and keep the economy going, the livelihoods that depend completely on tourism.
Yeah, that's a tough balance.
And if you look back, at other times when unrest flared up in the region, there's sort of a pattern. Government responses often involve restricting access, closing off areas that intelligence flags as sensitive.
Okay.
But the history there, the data from those past closures, it suggests that the businesses, the ones tied directly to those specific tourist routes, they often face a really long uphill battle to recover. It's not easy.
And this whole thing isn't happening in a vacuum either, is it? There's another layer of worry here. These reports about increased activity along the line of control, the LoC, with Pakistan.
Yeah, that's definitely adding another dimension. It feels like multiple pressures are just converging all at once.
So what are we hearing there?
Well, for 5 nights straight, right after the Pahalgam attack, there were these concerning reports. Ceasefire violations, exchanges of fire targeting Indian Army posts. 5 nights?
The timing, well, it certainly makes you think. And it just highlights how delicate the whole geopolitical situation is framing this tragedy.
Right.
The LoC, that sort of de facto border up there, it's always been a potential flashpoint, historically speaking. And anytime tensions spike there, it just adds to the overall feeling of unease in the valley.
So let's try and piece this together then. You've got this horrific violence, right, aimed squarely at tourism.
Right.
Then this really swift, really significant government reaction, shutting down a huge chunk of that tourism infrastructure.
Yeah, over half the spots.
And then layered on top is this backdrop of rising friction along the border. It just paints, frankly, a really concerning picture for stability there.
It really does. I mean, the immediate human costs, the lives lost, that's obviously paramount. It's irreplaceable.
But beyond that immediate tragedy, we really have to look at the very real, very deep economic hit for Kashmir. How does an economy that leans so heavily on welcoming people, how does it cope with a blow like this?
Exactly. Because tourism there, it's not just like a side hustle. For so many people, it's the absolute backbone of their lives.
Absolutely.
You think about the guides, right? They know every single path in the mountains.
Yeah.
The hotel owners taking such pride in their places.
The Shikarawala's on Dal Lake.
Yeah, the Shikarawals with their boats, the Poniwalas navigating those steep trails.
Yeah.
Their entire way of making a living, it's all tied up with tourists coming.
It's completely intertwined.
And the impact from this attack, it sounds like it was immediate. and just brutal. What are the initial reports saying?
Well, the first reports are pretty stark. Hotel occupancy rates, they've apparently just plummeted, down by over 60%.
60%, wow.
And cancellations through the roof, right across the board. And, this isn't just about empty hotel rooms. It translates directly, immediately into a massive loss of income for countless families, countless small businesses, souvenir sellers, restaurants, everyone.
You could almost feel the weight of that, can't you? We heard this one story, just a simple comment, but it really hit home. It was from Shikarwala, one of the boatmen.
Mm-hmm.
He just said, "My boat is my life. Without tourists, what am I?"
Wow. Yeah.
That one sentence, it just cuts right through the numbers, doesn't it? Shows you the raw human vulnerability behind it all.
It absolutely does. And that decision, closing those 48 destinations, I mean, okay, it's meant to boost security. We get that.
Right.
But it also effectively cuts off the very lifeline for so many of those communities right now. It's temporary, hopefully.
Hopefully.
But the uncertainty, how long will it last? It just leaves so many people in this really precarious spot, wondering how they're going to make ends meet.
And then looming over everything is this shadow of the LoC Tensions.
Still there.
It just creates this climate of fear, of uncertainty. And that's bound to put off potential visitors even more, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
It feels like a really difficult cycle. Violence happens, it breeds fear, fear keeps the tourists away, that hammers the economy. And meanwhile, the underlying tensions, they just sort of persist.
That's it. Precisely.
Yeah.
The attack itself and the border situation happening at the same time. It just paints this picture of a region under, immense strain.
Yeah.
It really underlines how fragile things are, how fragile any return to sort of normalcy can be in such a complex and frankly sensitive area.
So, okay, stepping back, looking at the whole picture as it stands right now, a few things really stand out, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
First, obviously, the devastating human cost in Pahalgam, just awful, immeasurable.
Absolutely.
Second, the immediate economic punch to the gut for Kashmir's tourism. These widespread closures, that huge drop in occupancy, it's severe.
Very severe. 60% drop, massive cancellations.
And third, these escalating tensions along the line of control, just adding a significant layer of instability onto an already shaky situation.
Yeah, this whole event, it's just a really stark reminder, isn't it, of how deeply connected all the challenges facing Kashmir are.
Right.
It's not just about, managing tourist flows or securing borders. It really goes to the heart of the well-being, the aspirations of the people who actually live there, who call this beautiful but, troubled land home.
Makes you wonder, though.
What's that?
When they decided to close so many places, 48 spots,
Yeah.
what went into that decision? I mean, were there other options on the table besides such a widespread closure?
That's a really crucial question, actually. What were the alternatives considered? What was the calculus behind restricting access so broadly? It's something worth thinking about.
And it really makes you think, doesn't it, about the long-term impact for those people whose lives we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The guides who've inherited generations of mountain knowledge, the hoteliers who poured everything into their businesses, the shikarwalas, the ponywalas. When the whole foundation of your life gets shaken like this, what does the future actually hold?
And that brings up maybe the biggest question, really, for all of us watching this unfold. How does a region even begin to heal? How do you rebuild confidence after shocks like this?
Yeah, where do you even start?
Because, the immediate security response is essential. Nobody denies that. But what about the deeper stuff? The systemic issues? What needs to be addressed long-term to really foster lasting peace, lasting stability?
So that tourism can flourish again.
Exactly. So it can provide those sustainable livelihoods again. It's just such a complex mix, isn't it? Security worries, economic realities, and just the basic hopes and dreams of the people living there. How can that trust be rebuilt? Not just for tourists looking in from the outside, but maybe more importantly, within the communities themselves.